I'm a 24-year-old art history major, working part-time as a courier for a local auction house to help pay for grad school. My job is simple: pick up and deliver paintings, sculptures, or antiques to clients, usually rich collectors or galleries. Most deliveries are straightforward: drop off a piece, get a signature, and leave. But last month, something happened that I can't stop replaying in my head. It was a chilly Friday evening, around 7 p.m., when I got a last-minute assignment to deliver a painting to an estate just outside the city. The order was for a 19th century portrait, a somber-looking woman in a black dress, titled The Widow's Grief. The client had purchased it at auction for a hefty sum, and the instructions were specific: deliver it directly to the buyer, no porch drops, and wait for them to inspect it. The address was a mansion in a secluded area, about 30 minutes down a forested road. I loaded the carefully wrapped painting into my van and set off. The drive was eerie from the start. The road twisted through dense woods, and the GPS kept glitching, dropping the signal every few minutes. By the time I reached the estate, the sun had set, and the place was lit only by a few flickering lanterns along the driveway. The mansion loomed like something out of a Gothic novel: tall, gray stone, the ivy crawling up the walls and windows that seemed to swallow the light. I parked, grabbed the painting, and walked up to the massive front door, which had a heavy iron knocker shaped like a raven's head. I knocked, and the sound echoed like it was bouncing off the walls of an empty cathedral. After a long minute, the door creaked open, revealing an older woman in a long black dress. Her hair pulled back so tightly it looked painful. She didn't smile, just stared at me with eyes that felt like they were boring into my soul. "You have the portrait?" she asked, her voice low and raspy. I nodded, holding it up, and she gestured for me to follow her inside. The interior was just as unsettling as the outside. The air was thick with the smell of old wood and something sharp, like mothballs mixed with decay. The foyer was dimly lit by a single chandelier, its crystals coated in dust. She led me to a parlor, where the walls were lined with portraits, all of stern-faced people who seemed to watch me as I walked. She pointed to an easel in the center of the room and told me to unwrap the painting and place it there. As I peeled back the protective cloth, I got a good look at the widow's grief. The woman in the painting had hollow cheeks, pale skin, and eyes that seemed to follow you, no matter where you stood. I set it on the easel, and the client stepped forward to inspect it. She didn't say a word, just traced her fingers along the frame, her face unreadable. Then out of nowhere, she whispered, "She's finally home." I tried to make small talk, asking if she was a collector, but she ignored me. Instead, she turned and said, "Wait here, I need to get something." Before I could respond, she disappeared through a side door. I stood there alone with the painting, feeling increasingly uneasy. The room was too quiet, save for a faint ticking from a grandfather clock in the corner. Then I heard it, a soft, almost inaudible whisper, like someone murmuring just behind me. I spun around, but no one was there. The portraits on the walls seemed to stare harder now, their eyes glinting in the dim light. I told myself I was imagining things, but then the whispering started again, clearer this time. It sounded like a woman's voice, saying, "Don't leave me." My heart was pounding, and I glanced at the painting. For a second, I could have sworn the widow's expression had changed. Her lips were slightly parted, like she was about to speak. I blinked, and it was back to normal, but I wasn't sticking around to find out what was going on. I called out to the client, saying I needed to get back to the auction house, but there was no answer. The whispering grew louder, now coming from all directions, a chorus of voices overlapping. "Stay, stay, stay." I grabbed my delivery log and started backing toward the foyer, my eyes locked on the painting. That's when I noticed the frame was vibrating, just slightly, like something inside was trying to get out. I didn't wait for the client. I bolted for the front door, fumbling with the heavy latch, until it finally gave way. As I stumbled onto the porch, I heard a loud crash from inside, like glass shattering. I didn't look back, just sprinted to my van, threw it into gear, and floored it down the driveway. In my rearview mirror, I saw the mansion's front door wide open, a faint glow spilling out, but no one was there. When I got back to the auction house, I told my boss what happened. He looked at me like I was crazy, but checked the client's details. The buyer's name was listed as Eleanor Grayson, but when he called the number provided, it was disconnected. The auction house tried contacting her for days, but no one ever answered. They sent another courier to the address, a week later, and he said the mansion was empty, boarded up, and looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. The painting was still there, on the easel in the parlor, but the glass over it was shattered, and the widow's face was scratched out. I quit the courier job after that. I don't care if it was my imagination or something else. I'm not delivering anything to a place like that again. Every time I close my eyes, I see that painting, and I swear I can still hear that whisper, "Don't leave me."